Um, I like to speak about the fact that, there is evil in the world, and there are men out there, and there are women as well that prey on people, and they're not they're not out there looking for someone they can love or they can share their life with. They're looking for someone they can manipulate and control and dominate, uh, control like a robot or a puppet. And there are souls and people out there that avail themselves to those roles as a puppet, as a robot, to a master. But they're not really masters, and I don't like using that term because they prey on the weak. And a master doesn't need weak. A master doesn't look for weak. A master looks for strength. I don't look for a beautiful woman. I look for a strong woman. I look for a woman that can take a lot. The measuring stick that I like to use is, if I die, is my wife and kids going to die with me? Or is she going to pick up the mantle and carry the torch and raise those kids the way they're supposed to, even though I'm not around anymore and I'm not supporting them anymore, or they can't rely on me anymore because I'm not there for whatever reason. Maybe I'm in jail. I wouldn't think that, but you never know with my life. But maybe I'm dead, maybe, whatever. I'm in a coma. I mean, if I went into a coma, I'm diabetic, so coma is possible, they say. But is she going to die because I went into a coma? I'm going to wake up and they're going to tell me, well, my wife and kids are dead because you went into a coma? I mean, that's the measuring stick, the litmus test I put through a woman that I'm thinking about having children with in the first place, or want to continue a long-term relationship. They have to be strong. They have to have a career of their own. They have to have a way to make money on their own. They have to have the ability to function in this world, even though they lost the one that they loved the most. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I want someone who's going to think it's easy, but I want someone that can do it, and thinks that the kids are more important than their own personal feelings about their spouse, and they realize that the kids need a parent, even though they lost a parent, and by taking care of those kids and by raising them and having a beautiful life is honoring the spouse that was lost and not dishonoring them. So, just gotta be careful, because you're sick, you attract sick. And that's why drug addicts hang out together. That's why alcoholics hang out together, because they're sick and they attract sick. That's why AA meetings are the way they are. They are pickup joints. The girls go there to meet men, and the men go there because regular, normal, non-alcoholic people don't want anything to do with them. You tell someone, oh, I'm an alcoholic, and they're like, hang up on you. They go to an AA meeting, and they're like, oh, what's your number? So it's that kind of vein that I'm speaking of. And it's not good. If you're an alcoholic, you don't want to date an alcoholic, believe me. It's the last person on the planet you want to date. I went to AA for 40 years, and I never dated anyone because I had one night stand in AA, and that was it. And because I had that one night stand, I never had another. I was like, well, that taught me a lesson real quick. I was like, this is not something you want to pursue. And girls would really get pissed at me, If they want to date me, and I'd be like, no, I don't even talk to them. I don't even get them interested. I don't want to even give a scent that I'm available or open to it, and I would shut it down, and I don't know, maybe they thought I was shy, maybe they thought I was afraid, and maybe I was, rightfully so though, so, and, my friend, I don't want to mention his name, but he had a child with a woman from AA, and he's raising the child by himself now because she's off in La La Land, and she's not a mother. She can't be a mother, and I know her, and I'm not going to mention her name, but she was an only child. Only children are horrible people for the most part, and it's only because they're so selfish, and they're like the Richie Rich of the world, They only think of themselves. They only think of their own pocketbook. And when they have a kid, it's like the kid drains from them, and they don't like it. They don't want that. It's like, oh, I can't do this because I got to do it for him, and they don't want to spend time with the kid. They want to do what they want to do, because they never had to sacrifice time for anybody else when they were an only child. And I told him, because he had only one child, and I'm like, you don't want to make your wife, you don't want to make your girlfriend, whatever. I don't know if they got married, but you don't want to make the mother. Then you need to have another child, and that's important. And you have a cutoff line. If you don't have another child when you have a child, only child is, you don't have another child, at least, I would say 7, but at least if that child reaches 6 or 7 without a brother or sister, you're done. The iron has gotten cold, and that's it. And you gotta get them young, where they gotta give up for their sibling, and an only child never does that. And I don't know, I went off on a tangent, but only children really, it's a pet peeve of mine. If I ever have a child, that's one thing why it's so important to get the right woman, because you can end up like him, raising a child by yourself. And, it's very hard to meet another woman when you have a child, they don't want anything to do with you, unless they have children, and then it's like the Brady Bunch kind of situation. So, it's very difficult. And then, like you saw in Brady Bunch, it was like, oh my boys, oh my girls, and you only treat your own children better than you do your stepchildren, and that creates a problem too.